Hello, BookTube. I've got some mail for you today on a gray, overcast day. The overcast is actually an improvement in the forecast. The forecast originally, up until just this morning, was for relentless downpours all day. I don't see those happening, and I don't see them in the data. I think light drizzles and unbroken cloud cover are what we can expect today. And then that goes away. The long-term forecast for next week was spotty, on and off rain a lot throughout the week. I don't think that's going to happen. I think next week is going to be cooler, 10 degrees cooler, but clear and lovely the whole time with no rain. Which would be great in one way. I love the rain, of course. I love the sound of it hitting the windows. I love reading while it's raining, all those bookish things. But it becomes a trial with the little baby bean. She does not like to go out in the rain. She's staring at me. I don't know if you can see this. She's right behind me, staring at me, like that. She doesn't like to be away from me. She doesn't like to go out in the rain. She doesn't like to go out with the threat of rain. She doesn't like to go out when the ground is wet. She doesn't like any of that. So it becomes a little battle of wills, but we'll manage. I have a rather full day on tap for today. But I didn't want to let the mail go fallow since we're having such luck with the mail. I've only had, in the last 2 weeks, I've only had one mail haul video that descended me into mindless frothing ranting that I couldn't upload the video. So we're going to see if this one is better. We have 3 packages. Let's just see what we have here and hope for the best, right? We can just hope for the best. Okay, what have we got here? All this paperwork. I don't need any paperwork. Okay, is this going to be... I wonder if all of these are going to be new next year. This is February 2024, so I don't need to worry about it. This is Michael Broyle's Revolutions in American Music. 3 decades that changed a country and its sounds. It comes out in February. How did a European social dance craze become part of American presidential election? Why did the recording industry become racially divided? Where did rock and roll really come from? And how do all these things continue to reverberate in today's world? Okay. In this book, the author shows the surprising ways in which 3 key decades, the 1840s, the 1920s, and the 1950s, I knew you were going to be curious to know, shaped Americans' musical future. Drawing connections between new styles of music like the minstrel show, jazz, rock and roll, and emerging technologies like the locomotive, the first music recordings, and the transistor radio, the author argues that these decades fundamentally remade our cultural landscape in enduring ways. At the same time, these connections revealed underlying racial injustice and fault lines running through the business of music, an echo of American society as a whole. Through the music of each decade, we come to see anew the social, cultural, and political fabric of the time. The author combines broad historical perspective with an eye for the telling detail and presents a variety of characters to serve as focal points, including the original Jim Crow, a colorful Hungarian dancing master named Korpane, Empress of the Blues Bessie Smith, and the singer Johnny Ray, whom Tony Bennett called the father of rock and roll. Their stories and many others animate Broyle's masterly account of how American music became what it is today. Okay. Well, I detect faint atonal notes there of your grandparents were horrible people and they listened to horrible music for horrible reasons. I'm hoping that's not the case. If this is a book telling me that the history of American music, all of its styles, is the history of American racism, then this is a worthless book. It could be that this was written in the heat of that social fad, that social movement. I don't know. I don't know. Certainly the people that are listed here for the 1920s, the 1840s, the 1920s, and the 1950s. The people that are listed, the original Jim Crow, a Hungarian dance master, Bessie Smith, and the singer Johnny Ray. If those are the focal points of those decades, they seem chosen to give a disproportionate view of things. I don't know what to tell. I mean, this author, who is he anyway? Do I want to know? He was formerly a music critic for the Baltimore Sun and is a past president of the Society of American Music. Okay, so he must know the subject. So he must. This is, keep in mind, the pub sheet. This is not the book. If he was the former music critic for the Baltimore Sun and the past president of the Society for American Music, he must know how fundamentally absurd it is to say that the American music industry today is racially divided. I don't know if maybe he doesn't know what sells, or what people listen to, or what the people who make what people listen to look like. I don't know. We'll see. You know already. I'm not going to let this derail the mail haul. You know already where I stand on books that who have as their founding contention, your grandparents are horrible people. I don't believe in blood guilt. I don't believe in collective punishment. I don't believe in anything like that. So we'll see. Maybe the author doesn't either. So I don't have to worry about it until the new year. So let's just move on before that pulls down an innocent mail haul here. It'll probably just be a really good study of American music. Certainly the author has the credentials. So let's see what this next one. Oh, okay. All right, good. This is a finished copy of a November release. Is that right? Yes, early November. This is a finished copy of something that we've seen before. We saw the advanced copy. This is George Musser, who did the book Spooky Action at a Distance, which is terrific. And this is his book, Putting Ourselves Back in the Equation: Why Physicists Are Studying Human Consciousness and AI to Unravel the Mysteries of the Universe. In this eye-opening and mind-expanding new book, the celebrated science journalist George Musser takes a deep dive into some of the thorniest problems of all science, particularly around physics, cosmology, and the study of consciousness, while demonstrating how, increasingly, scientists have been collaborating and crossing the divide between these seemingly disparate fields to shed light on how matter emerges from the smallest of particles and how consciousness emerges from the physical matter of our brains, among other topics. He draws on interviews conducted with the whole host of leaders in their fields and gives readers the most up-to-date overview of these relatively young but fertile areas where brain science and physics, and increasingly, given its connection to both fields, artificial intelligence, overlap. Fantastic. I haven't got to this yet, and I really mean to. I really should. Because October is wearing away. We have a week left in October. So I will do that. I think when I got the advanced copy of this, I expressed the doubt that it raises in my mind. I have seen a lot of woo-woo science communicators. This guy is not a scientist. He's a science journalist. I've seen a lot of woo-woo science communicators talking about the interaction of consciousness and the physical universe, the so-called problem of the mind, the so-called explanatory gap between the brain's physiology and the phenomenon of the mind. I know what all of those things are, all of those woo-woo ponderings and chin strokings are all just religion. They are all just people who claim proudly that they are atheists who don't want to live in a godless world. They don't want to live in a godless universe. They don't want to live in a universe that doesn't care whether you think or not. They do live in such a universe, but they don't want to. They don't want to. They fundamentally don't want to divest themselves of gods. I don't know if this author is the same. It would be a big disappointment if he were, but we'll give it a try. In fact, I'll put this on the pile for a relatively soon reading because I'm going to need to grapple with it, I bet, at length. But that bugs me. That just bugs me. There is no explanatory gap between the human brain and the human mind. The only reason that dude bros, chin-stroking, woo-woo science communicators or popularizers say that is because they want God to be in that gap. Some kind of God to be in that gap. They want at least something to be in that gap that stops them from being the livestock animals whose dead bodies they eat all day long. When you are, that is what you are. You are a living organism. You are here for a tiny, infinitesimally small length of time. You are meaningless to the outside universe. You make your own meaning. And the so-called influencers that I've seen laboring this subject over and over and over again just don't want that to be true. They just don't. They have the big microphone. They have 1 million subscribers on, YouTube or Rumble or whatever, and that has led them to believe that they are simply too important to be a squirrel burst open on the highway. That can't be me. When actually that is exactly what you are. So we will see. This I shouldn't rant because this thing will very likely end up being something different. But anyway, let's move on to the final book. It's big. It's a box. What is this? Is this huge? It's gigantic. Oh, okay, great. All right, I don't know what to make of this. I think this is out already, so I am going to need to. I'm going to need to slice off some time for this thing. To put it mildly, I am, because this is a novel. It is 1,200 pages long. It's Invidiom by Michael Brodsky. Womp! Look at that. This is from Tough Poets Press. Are you going to help me out, guys? Are you going to help me out with? It's got blurbs on the back and the author photo. But it doesn't tell me anything. I wonder if it's going to tell me anything. Michael Brodsky has written a lot. Maybe some of you know his work. He did novels, one called Detour, Circuits, X-Man, Dyad, We Can Report Them, and Lurianics. But he's done fiction collections and plays and translations and essays and all sorts of things like that. This is illustrated by Michael Hafta. Are you going to tell me anything? Oh, come on, guys. This is a 1,200-page book, and you're giving the reader nothing to go on. Literally nothing except blurbs. Okay, and we don't know if the blurbs are for this book. He's written lots of other books. The blurbs could be for earlier works. Oh, that doesn't help at all. Okay, well, all right, I don't actually know then what this is. I don't know anything about it except that it's a gigantically long novel. Oh, and it's going to make you, oh God, it could be even longer. Look at that type font. This could easily be 1,400 words. And you get very long paragraphs. But I don't know, I can't tell you anything about this. You're just going to have to look it up. I'm going to give it the old college try here. I'm going to do, I will sink a lot of time into this weekend, I think. Maybe tonight. A huge chunk of it and see. Well, I mean, we can look at the epigraphs to the book. There's one from Gertrude Stein. Don't you ever stop with your thinking long enough to ever have any feelings, Jeff Campbell, said Melanctha a little sadly. I don't know, said Jeff Campbell slowly. I don't know, Miss Melanctha, much about that. No, I don't stop thinking much, Miss Melanctha, and if I can't ever feel without stopping thinking, I certainly am very much afraid, Miss Melanctha, that I will never do much with that kind of feeling. Fairly typical Gertrude Stein. Then the next is from Cole Porter, from I'm Getting Myself Ready for You. I'll never stoop to onion soup, and pork and beans are taboo. And then the third epigraph is from Hamlet, The Doors Are Broke. Great. What about let's read a bit of chapter 1. For trial subject 1, in parentheses Martin Eden, a far from perfect day for walking over the bridge from Middaugh Street to Amygdala Institute. A silvery rash below mirrors expertly the lability of his own forever adolescent skin. Adding insult to injury, premature ejaculation of the toothpaste down the drain, and not enough remaining to kill the afterstench of dream-free sleep. Could be taken for an omen, but why be lashed to the mainmast of mumbo-jumbo? Such a malevolently sunny morning's been created specifically for men like one's bullying father, with an obscene zest for life. Yet, like a true snake, it has elected to give its unjustifiable all to somebody like him, purely to taunt said somebody's inhering inability to savor. An injustice, this, very much the order of, say, Bush Cheney Rumsfeld's toddling off to die entwined in the same bed of roses after having regrettably sent thousands of kids to their death in what was once called Mesopotamia, of all places. Beautiful-souled Eden is obliged to concede that the scum is managing yet again to inherit the earth. He tries to saunter up summer-smoldering Essex Street, more of a grand boulevard, if you ask me, while at the same time dodging the flip-floppers with their tattooed fedoras and remaining hyper-alert to the one psychotic out of 1,000 who might just decide to stab him in the neck simply for staring cross-eyed or refusing to. And with this thought in tow, he is suddenly too weighed down even to limp, much less saunter. That is the first paragraph. Oh my. Oh my. So this author, as you could probably tell from that great author photo, is not going to take it easy on you at all. I wish I could tell you more about this. I guess you can look it up, but this is certainly going to be the longest novel that I read this year, and I'd best get on it. I mean, I thought originally that I'd best get on it because of the length, but now I know also that the author is going to be expecting me to pay attention the whole time. The nerve. So that is the mail. We have putting ourselves back in the equation. Spoiler, you are not in the equation. The universe doesn't know that you exist because it can't know anything. And if it did, if it were able to know something, it wouldn't care that you exist. A man said to the universe, "Sir, I exist." The universe replied, "That fact in me creates no sense of obligation." Okay, you live in a godless world. So we'll see. You don't belong in the equation. Putting yourself back, the only way you can put yourself in what is referred to in the title here as the equation is religion. That's what religion does. That's the only thing religion does, is to put you in the equation where you otherwise aren't. You're an animal. That's all. But anyway, then we have Revolutions in American Music by a former music critic of the Baltimore Sun. And finally, Invidiom. Oh my God. What have I gotten myself into? A gigantic novel. We will see. We will see if it can justify its own length. If it can, I'll be its best friend. I don't care how difficult it is, as long as it's not fetishizing its difficult nature. I will be its best friend if it can validate this length. We shall see. I'm intrigued, to put it mildly. That first paragraph was, I believe the critical cliche is fiercely intelligent. It's certainly not rollicking. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up for now. That was the mail. More mail could come today. It's a rainy, off-feeling day, and it's a Saturday, so plenty of mail comes late. If I don't open it just willy-nilly, because it's the reason I tend to open late packages on Saturdays is because I have this apportioned time in my mind. This is BookTube time. And once BookTube time is over, once I've made my videos and talked to my imaginary BookTube friends for the day, well, then I think, oh, well, you missed it. Might as well open these. When I could just set them aside and open them the next day. So we will see. We will see. I'm still reeling from Invidiom. I'm gonna have to make time for that book and figure out what to do with it. But I can do that off camera. So I'll wrap this up for now, and I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.